there's probably a lot of lobbyists and money and wine that are talking to us about antioxidants, but no one's talking about these beautiful qualities of beer. And that's when I started thinking, okay, there's something here and there's something that I can drink. And I got to figure out how to make a gluten-removed version of this beer that focuses and understands sort of the unique needs of someone who's healthy and active.
And so here we had this dilemma, this fact.
I've been almost a decade researching this subject.
Every aspect of your metabolic health improves.
From the Hint offices in San Francisco, I'm Kara Goldin, founder and CEO of Hint. Welcome to Unstoppable, a podcast which shares successful founder and entrepreneur stories, like Jessica Heron, founder of Stella & Dot, tech maven Randy Zuckerberg, and Lisa Sugar, the creator of the multi-million-dollar media company Pop Sugar. We dive deep into the entrepreneurial mindset, what it takes to create a scalable business, how to make an impact, the intricacies of funding, and much, much more. Plus, we ask the million-dollar question, what does it really take to be unstoppable? Let's find out. Hi, everybody. It's Kara, and we're here on Unstoppable. And we're so excited this morning to have Caitlin Landesberg, who is the CEO and founder and friend at Sufferfest Beer Company. So excited. Thank you so much for coming in this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And there's all kinds of news going on right now. But I want to just start by congratulating Caitlin. She just actually did two major things that we'll get into, but just had a baby, her second baby, which is so exciting.
Thank you.
So if there's ever any question, can you actually have a family and actually run a company and maybe do some other things? The answer is yes. And Caitlin will talk to us more about that. But so let's go back to the beginning. And I remember meeting you at the beginning. I remember one of the guys that works in our office was doing a race and he met you at one of the races. So tell me a little bit about Sufferfest and what you guys are doing.
That's a perfect place to start. Dane,
wonderful
Dane on your team, is an ultra runner, and so am I, and a lot of members of our team are. Our very first event, March 4th of 2016, we served beer to sweaty athletes coming in from the Way Too Cool trail running event, and that's kind of a beautiful race because it's the kickoff of the ultra season, and a lot of first-time 50K and 50-miler runners go out and do that Way Too Cool event. And every year there's cupcakes and camaraderie and mud, and it's one of the toughest races out there, actually. And that was our kickoff, and that's kind of a nice way to sort of start this by saying Sufferfest is all about celebrating the effort. I'm an athlete. I've always identified my athlete more so than being a beer drinker, but can't see running without my finish line beer. And so long story short on that front, just started making beer for that finish line experience, and the rest is history.
That's awesome. Yeah. So that was the first time that you brought Sufferfest. So for those of you who don't know what Sufferfest is, so Caitlin, talk to us about that a little bit. What makes it unique and different?
So we are dubbed as a functional beer company by the industry and by the alcohol beverage industry, but essentially I was looking for a beer to drink, again, for that finish line experience, and nothing really filled my needs as an endurance athlete, both from a dietary perspective and just from a healthy and active perspective. And so, what I really did was in 2012, I started home brewing and had my first aha moment that actually beer is this wonderful natural product, and kind of had that kind of sort of lightning strike or light bulb, and wondered, why aren't more alcohol beverage companies looking at their products to serve this community? And I was in a unique position at the time, running marketing at a fitness application called Strava, and brewing beer on the side. that was brewed with non-conventional ingredients, really focused again on digestion and celebrating the effort, using, again, quality ingredients that our sort of sweaty tribe would recognize as replenishment ingredients that they would enjoy.
What makes it unique? What are those ingredients that are different from most beers?
So, for instance, we have a Kolsch, which is a light beer. It's under 100 calories and under 5 carbs. But we've added bee pollen to that. And that's a wonderful element for all the great attributes bee pollen has. I even put it on my face. I digest it all the time. And I thought,
that's so great.
What a wonderful ingredient to use in something like a Kolsch that also will sort of trick the brain of thinking that you're having something sweeter than you actually are, bringing in a really nice honey aroma. But also giving back to our sweaty athletes that are really earning their beer. And so again, this business is a functional beer company that celebrates the effort. That's why we're called Sufferfest. It's a term of endearment that we endurance athletes use to describe the anguish and ailing that you feel during a race or a cycle or a workout or even a tough day at the office. But the fest part, the celebration makes it all worth it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's super awesome. And so you were talking about, you just like went home and just started making the beer. Like, had you ever made beer before?
No. And I actually didn't really want to. I was complaining to my boyfriend, who's now my husband, about, not really having to give up beer at that sort of moment in time where you get that commemorative pint glass. And I was saying, I'm bringing this cooler now of sugary ciders and these really obscure gluten-free beers. Nothing tastes good. My whole existence at that finish line is pretty lonely. And he sort of challenged me and said, complaining is not it's not a good look for you. You're not the kind of person that just sort of sits on the sidelines. And so for my birthday in 2012, he got me a beer making course in Hayes Valley, actually. And that's when I started making beer for the first time. And again, wasn't looking at beer through the lens of like a craft brewer who wanted to get into that.
You thought it'd be fun,
But from an athlete perspective, having that aha moment of, wow, it's 90% water. It's totally naturally fibrous. It has all these great antioxidants. And I thought, wow, again, there's probably a lot of lobbyists and money and wine that are talking to us about antioxidants, but no one's talking about these beautiful qualities of beer. And that's when I started thinking, okay, there's something here and there's something that I can drink. And I got to figure out how to make a gluten-removed version of this beer that focuses and understands sort of the unique needs of someone who's healthy and active. And I started taking courses at UC Davis School of Brewing and getting really into the biochemistry of beer. And that's sort of when I learned how to make better tasting, really overall, just more purpose brewed beers, if you will, using enzymes and food science at UC Davis.
That's amazing. Yeah. And you came from a marketing background, right?
Yeah, I'm an English major. I was fish out of water. But...
I always tell people though too, I think understanding the aspects, having a passion and having a reason for starting something, but also be willing to go take a class at UC Davis Brewing and really, it's fun, but you also learn how to do it.
Absolutely. It's fun. You learn these extension courses and being part of that UC network in California, it's all around us. And I would just really stress that more people do it because I didn't believe it, the top brewing school in the country is right here, 2 hours away.
That's awesome. Yeah. And so when we met, when you were first starting, so you were out raising, I think, your first round of capital. And now you were just telling me before we started here, you ended up speaking at a conference and meeting somebody. Do you want to tell a little bit about that story?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think I remember taking you out to breakfast at Rose's in 2016 going, how do you deal with all the no's? How do we do this? It's been a grind from day one, of course. But again, the business is very aptly named because building any business, certainly an alcohol beverage, and it is all about the grit and the perseverance. And that's one thing I've learned. And as it relates, we have been really fortunate enough to stick to our guns and serve our sweaty consumer, as I call them, and really focus on celebrating the effort. And as such, have really played a part in creating this functional beer category. And It's not necessarily a white space that I tried to go into. It's being very self-referential and saying, this is a need. There wasn't a brand that talked to me. And turns out I wasn't alone. So we were really fortunate enough to get some interest from other brands and other strategics to sort of help us grow fairly early on in our existence. But, we're really focused on serving our athletes. We're really focused on a pace that allows us to build relationships with our buyers. And these conversations were probably too soon and didn't necessarily set us up to build that brand that I have envisioned. I think I was talking to you, Kara, raising A, and my head was down this past fall, starting to think about raising funds for Series B and really going down that next chapter of growth to be an independent beer brand, knowing that it would be very difficult, but knowing that was probably the right thing to do to build a brand effectively the way that we should. And it was at that time that I happened to go to a conference down in Los Angeles, a small beverage conference that asked me to speak just on sort of brand marketing and our loyalty building. And I happened to sit next to Jeff White, the CEO of Sierra Nevada, and he was also presenting that day. And we hadn't really talked. We were both sort of focused on the stage, but I presented in the afternoon and then he presented right after me. And we both sat down and really, it was a moment. We
just hit it off.
We looked at each other and kind of had this sort of face palm, like hit over the head. Like, why have we not met before? How has this happened? Where have you been all my life, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And we immediately just started collaborating and thinking about all the fun we would have. They're just such a values-driven company. They're the only platinum LEED certified brewery in the country. They've got just ferocious focus on their quality and their people and wellness. And anyway, we were thinking about collaborating, but one thing led to another. The sparks were flying, and we knew we had to go in deeper and really partner. So. And
were they at like some of the same events that you had been at? Had you met them along the way or not really?
We hadn't, not necessarily. I think at some events, they are focused on the outdoor community as well, but from a more casual trail and backpacker community, I would say, not to label them or pigeonhole them in that area, but film festivals and environmentally focused events, we would see them certainly. But I don't think they've been such, to me at least, just an incredible brand that I grew up with, being a California kid, but also elusive, and I've never really understood sort of, given that they were privately owned and operated and by a family, it never really struck me about sort of our future partnership.
It wasn't
together.
Your goal to just,
it was not,
you didn't think a few months ago that was actually going to happen.
It took me by surprise, and it was a whirlwind partnership, and they are absolutely the best partner in the world for us.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so do they actually have trucks and that you can get on for distribution?
Yeah, they do.
That? Yeah.
They have a self-distribution model outside of Chico. So locally they do have their own trucks, but again, they were the original craft beer company, and they've been in existence for 30 years plus now. And so they have a wholesaler network around the country that obviously allows us to tap into, but those fleets are now wholesalers that obviously service on behalf of their brand.
And so you'll remain a CEO
I will.
of the brand, which is super great. Yes. That's amazing. But be able to have a partner that can really leverage some things for you and get the distribution out. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So are you distributed? Like, how vast are you distributed now?
Sure. So we're just starting to change our model into that wholesaler network. But as I mentioned before, the focus has really been on serving our sweaty athletes and consumers. And we've been self-distributed since day one. That started in 2016. We're now 3 years later. We've had a service here that has helped us provide for the state of California and Colorado. In Colorado, we opened up in 2017 because our brand was already going rogue.
I can imagine.
You can imagine the lot of parallels there with that community. So we've been distributing in California and Colorado for about 2.5 years. And then we just opened up the Pacific Northwest. But that will be our first ever sort of wholesaler relationship. And now that we're tapping into Sierra Nevada's wholesaler relationship, that expansion is moving at a faster clip, certainly, but they've been a fantastic partner in understanding and honoring how we want to go slow and really build community and really focus again on being at the finish line and being different from I wouldn't say our competitive set, but our cohorts in this category. I think our unfair advantage is that our team doesn't come from the beer business. We are a team of rock climbers, water polo players, lacrosse players, runners, cyclists. That's what we know. And so our unfair advantage is being at those cycling classes, at that trailhead, in these in-situation moments, sweating with our own tribe. And that's important to us because I think real really recognizes real, especially in this day and age. And we want to continue that approach.
Well, I think you guys also coming outside of the beer industry too, you're just thinking differently about it. So, and obviously that was something that Sierra Nevada saw in what you were doing too. So that's amazing. So looking back on your achievements, what are you the most proud of?
I probably without flinching, I'm certainly the most proud of parenthood.
Yeah.
And juggling parenthood, in a demanding role. I think any role, frankly, being a parent is an astounding achievement and a lifelong job. I don't think I ever had an appreciation for my mom. I still tell her, oh my gosh, Mom, I'm so sorry for everything I've done.
I totally agree.
But having Fran, so I started this company March of 2016 was when we first started selling. I was working on it about a year and a half prior to that, but became pregnant in 2016 and closed around in early 2017 with Fran, my 2-year-old now. And that was really hard. That was a lot of an aha moment just from a female in business perspective of all the things that I think I was projecting onto myself. I was embarrassed that I was pregnant. I was hiding that from investors. I was projecting all of these societal fears onto my own body, into myself and my psyche, and considering pregnancy and motherhood as a weakness at that time. And
what about with this next one?
And with this next one, and it was definitely, obviously a transition, but knowing what I had accomplished and being able to show that to, I think, the people that I didn't necessarily have to show it to, but that I thought I had to, it really made me understand that we were on a rocket ship, and if they wanted to get on, they could, but if they didn't, I was happy leaving them at the station. Yeah. And I think that mentality shift was really important for me, and I hope really important for the women in my office to see as well. We are a woman-founded and led business. We are 50% male, female in this business. I hope it continues to stay that way, and I'm super proud that I made that mental shift to understanding that, in fact, I think that balance of parenthood and running a business can really, really impact for the benefit and for the positive, your decision-making abilities, your leadership abilities,
totally,
your negotiation abilities, all these things, I think, and skills that I don't think I was appreciating opened up. So I'm proud of that.
Well, we were just talking a little bit about, Jenny from Rent the Runway. Mm-hmm. She just raised a huge round as well, being pregnant, and a few other founders that are out there. So I think more and more it's becoming like, this is what it is. Yeah. And it doesn't, just because I'm carrying a child or have children, it doesn't mean that I can't do my job any less. So absolutely, I think it's awesome. I love being able to point to examples like you and what you're doing. So what are the plans for Sufferfest over the next few years? I mean, you're getting integrated into the Sierra Nevada system. And, where do you see, do you think you'll focus more on the West Coast then? I mean, you talked about some of the different territories. I mean, Sierra Nevada, I'm just trying to remember. I mean, I think when they first came out, totally dating myself, but they really were like a West Coast brew, right? So is there pressure just to sort of grow in that way? Like, just stay on the West Coast, like don't go anywhere?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I love that question, actually, because because we've always focused on that healthy and active consumer, that consumer lives everywhere.
Yeah.
And we've never identified ourselves as a San Francisco company. In fact, you don't even see that word on our can and our label and packaging. We've been able to be this local friend in so many of these beachheads because we hit the psychographic community around sweating for your beer, earning your beer. And in that way, like I mentioned, we made a decision to go into Colorado because our brand was already going rogue there. People were grabbing it from California.
Totally makes sense, the events.
Right. Yeah. And so we tend to sort of follow that from a sales perspective. And so they're honoring how we grow and how we grow organically. We're a very word of mouth product. You usually hear about us from a running club member or your coach or nutritionist or what have you. And so places where we glow bright red right now are maybe the places that you would imagine: Stowe, Vermont, Jackson Hole, Wyoming, Flagstaff, Arizona, Tampa, Florida, places where people are already very active already. And so we love to be sort of known as that go-to beer for the healthy and active, or for the adventurer, or for the sweaty person. And so for that reason, we will be going national. We will be in, east, west, north, south. We will pick the places that make the most sense for our brand. And we're lucky enough now that we do have that infrastructure to do that on a pretty quick clip that we wouldn't have had otherwise.
That's awesome.
So while it's important for us to, again, go to a mile deep and an inch wide, I think we can certainly cherry pick our new communities where we've already had a lot of success from a brand perspective and set us up well for that follow through sales. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to up and coming entrepreneurs who are looking to really turn their passion into full-time, career that they really love and what they're doing? What do you think is like the biggest thing?
Sure. And I think you would probably hear this across the board, but number one, no really means not right now. And you've got to tell yourself that because no's are just part of the job. I think you just always get that. I'd say with CPG in particular and beverage alcohol, one, it's a regulated business. So you have to know that paperwork and red tape is going to be part of your life. And if sometimes, that's almost like the barrier to entry. For some people, that's just too much. But if you can get through that, a lot fewer people are on the other side. And all of a sudden things start to become more clear and open up.
What are those things? I always hear that alcohol has like the extra pieces of red tape. What are sort of the big ones?
Yeah. Well, when I was even first starting Sufferfest, I just wanted to label my beer, and I started slinging it, down the road here. And I had to spend hours upon hours upon hours at the city planning office, at the ABC, with the TTB. Basically, if I wanted to run a business, even if I wasn't holding beer in my house, but if I wanted to run my business from my bedroom, which I did, I had to basically license my home. You've seen some of those sort of like scarlet letter signs on those buildings when they get an alcohol license. I had that on my front door. We had an emergency HOA meeting because my neighbors thought we were running some sort of speakeasy from our basement.
That is so funny.
But we'd have city officials and police officers walking through our little mini, tiny San Francisco apartment on a quarterly basis to make sure that we weren't selling from our home office. You have to submit samples of each of your beers to make sure that they are exactly what you say they are on the label from a nutritional perspective and an alcohol volume perspective. It's a regulated business, so you can't just go out and sell direct to a consumer. You have to go and sell to a buyer who will then sell to a consumer. There's just, even from an event perspective, we work with certain events that actually serve on our behalf. And so this is all Prohibition era law. Yeah. That's super, super just archaic, but you still have to follow those. And every state is different. And you have to pay to play in some states. You have to do enormous license ordeals just to get into certain states.
So it's a state by state. So as you start to get into Colorado and Vermont and some of these other states, you have to. Yeah. What's the hardest state in the country that you've run across?
There's some that are just, I'd say Texas really is continued to be called the Wild West for lots of reasons. But Texas is a very difficult state to get licensed in.
Interesting.
And even if you change, it has different alcohol thresholds. So depending on if you have one beer at 3.5% and another beer at 5.5%, you have to change your label completely for those two different beers.
Interesting.
And so from a production perspective, as a small craft company, that's just enormously time and cost intensive. So there's places that just deter young companies from going into those states because it's just too convoluted.
There's so many components of this. So in many ways harder than the non-alcoholic industry.
Yeah.
They all have their challenges to it.
Right.
So what's your favorite Sufferfest beer?
Well, that's like Sophie's choice. They're my children. But my very first one that I actually brewed it for our wedding. It was first called the Mischief because a mischief is 2 mice or more. And my husband and I called each other little mice in a house, running our little businesses. He runs a B Corp as well. That was a Mischief Pilsner. I served it at our wedding in 2015. It was before Sufferfest was a twinkle in my eye at that point. But we got all this expensive, fancy craft beer from the region, but everyone wanted the bride's beer. Maybe that was because they were pandering to the bride. I'm not sure, but it was sort of the push I needed. Everyone said I would drink this. This is an amazing Pilsner. It's now our flyby. It's our number 1 selling beer. It won the 2017 Good Food Award. It won us Pilsner Brewer of the Year last year.
So great.
It's just been one of those wonderful beers that it's kind of a gateway beer to all our other functional beers. So
that's awesome.
My favorite because it's got the most memories attached to it, I suppose.
So what do you think you would tell your kids to do, knowing sort of, what you know about careers and you've developed a great company and sold a great company, right? What do you think you would tell your kids at this point?
Yeah, I guess I would say, maybe
you have a few years
years as a 2 and 3 month old, but I love the fact that I was an English major and that I am a fish out of water. And now I'm, doing something that I love and actually seeing some results. And so I think that is a lesson for my kids and for everyone that, you may be in one career now, but life is long.
Yeah.
And if you have a passion, then do something about it because it could turn out to be greater than you'd ever expect.
And so what makes you unstoppable?
Again, I think, as a runner myself and being out there by myself for hours and hours with my thoughts and grinding through that night, the sun will rise. And that is a beautiful moment in a runner's life when that sun rises and you can turn off your headlamp. There hasn't been a problem I wasn't able to solve after a run. And
That's awesome.
That makes me unstoppable. I'll just put one foot in front of the other.
That's so great. Well, Caitlin, thank you so much for coming by. And everybody, where can people buy the product?
Yeah. Hopefully soon around the country. But if you're in California, Colorado, Washington, or Oregon, you can find us at Whole Foods Market, Molly Stone, Safeway Albertsons, Target.
That's so great.
Lots of indies. We love our natural groceries all around the state.
And it is so yummy, you guys. It's so good. So I remember when I first tried it, and I don't know, I think especially when things are gluten-free, you're sort of like, I don't know, what's the trade-off of it? Right. But it is so good. I mean, we actually had a bunch around our office and everybody was trying it and they were like, wow, this is so good. So you guys definitely give it a try. Okay, great. Well, thanks, Caitlin.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
If you like what you heard, please help spread the word and leave us a review. You can also follow along with me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn at Kara Goldin. Do you have a question for me or want to nominate an innovator to spotlight? Please talk to me at Kara Goldin on Twitter. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time, be unstoppable.